So do you know when you go around to your best friend's house and the kids are running riot and you can't get a word in edgeways and they're constantly interrupting? This is what this is going to be like. So we've got Inez here playing with the toys. Alba's over there playing with her toys. And there's probably going to be 1,000,001 interruptions. But I get asked 1,000,000 questions on Instagram all the time. And I just thought, instead of filling my stories up with my Instagram questions, I'd answer them all here because they're very repetitive, a lot of them. Yeah, so people just must be interested in our busy, chaotic life. So I put a poll out on my Instagram the other day and asked what questions they wanted answering. And I wrote them down because I film on my iPhone and I can't see the messages. One everyone seems to be interested in the most is how I cope with 2 under 1. Now, I've got 6 kids, but my 2 youngest were born 11 months apart. So they are currently, Alba is 16 months and Inez is 5 months, coming up 6 months. So they're the same age every year for 22 days, which I find absolutely crazy. And Inez was a massive shock. I found out I was pregnant with her when Alba was 3 months old. Are you kissing your baby? Oh. Yeah, so I found out I was pregnant with Inez when Alba was 3 months old. And yeah, it was a huge shock. I was terrified, even though she was number 6. I've never had an age gap that small before. And it was really daunting. First interruption. Are you going to take your baby back?
Back.
Do you want her back?
Back.
You cuddler. Oh. So it was really daunting when I found out, and I was in shock probably till I was about 20 weeks. I never told anyone apart from Joel, my partner. No one knew up until 20 weeks. I just felt like I couldn't even say it. I felt that shocked. I felt like I couldn't even say I'm pregnant. It felt so weird. Thank you. Because we decided after Alba that we weren't going to have any more, and I was quite content with that. And so she shocked us, but I always say she was definitely meant to be here. She's fitted in perfectly. She evened out our numbers to make it 3 girls and 3 boys. And Alba's got a little best friend that's close to her, because I've got, my first is a girl, then 3 boys, and then these 2 girls. So my boys have always been dead close. And my daughter, she loves her own space. I also seen a psychic actually years ago when I first had my first daughter. We're talking over 11 years ago. And he always told me that I'd have 4 kids or 6, no in between. And I always thought, no way am I going to have that many kids. And he was right, wasn't he? But the age gap itself is absolutely fine. Like, it's not as scary as I thought it was going to be. Like, I dreaded it through pregnancy. I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to cope. How do you get through a newborn and a toddler phase this, like, so close together? Because I've got a 2-year gap between all my other children. And it's actually surprised me. So I always say I've never had twins, but I imagine it to be like twins, just a little bit more tricky, because literally the week before Inez was born, Alba started walking. So imagine being like heavily pregnant and your toddler just starting to walk, where they're walking into things, falling over, banging their heads, climbing. So that's where I was at. And Inez was born at 36 weeks, and I always say that it's Alba that put me into labour for starting to walk. Chasing around everywhere, being on edge, thinking she was going to bang her head, falling over. So yeah, I always say she put me into labour. But apart from that, they get on really well. Alba's took to it so well. She's not jealous of Inez, I think, at all. She might have a little moment here or there, but I think because there's that many people in the house to give her attention. There you go. There's that many people in the house to give her attention. She's not deprived of attention, so it's still on her as much as it is the other kids. And my sons especially are obsessed with Alba because she's so funny and she makes them laugh, and she wants to play with them all the time, and they actually want to play with her too, which is really cute. So yeah, she's always got attention, so she's absolutely fine. She hugs and kisses Inez. That was another thing that I had to be careful of. So if I'd put Inez down in her chair or a bouncer or anything, or lay her down, Alba would like run over as quick as she could, and she'd be trying to pick her up, trying to cuddle her, trying to kiss her. And obviously there's newborn doesn't need toddler germs, for one. But I didn't want to push her away because I didn't want her to think that she wasn't included and then form jealousy. But the picking up, she did try and pick her up a couple of times, and obviously they were never left alone. So I was always able to stop her. But she'd try and kind of get her in a headlock to give her a cuddle. So that's another thing we had to be careful of. But now Inez is 5 months old, nearly 6 months, very chunky, and she can withstand a cuddle off Alba. And she actually likes it as well. She smiles at her now when she sees her coming, which is really cute. All my kids have been really clingy. I thought Alba was really clingy. Inez takes it to a whole new level. And I think partly that's probably my fault because they were so close together. I would never leave Inez in her chair or a bouncer or leave her down anywhere. So now she's just used to being carried around and she hates going down. So she does tummy time on me. She's always on my hip. She's always in a sling. If I'm cooking, she's in a sling. If I'm cleaning, she's in a sling. And if she's not on me, she's crying. So that is quite difficult. But she will get out of that stage. As soon as she starts to be able to move, she's going to be on her way, isn't she? She's not going to be clinging to me forever, so I'm not really worried about that. But I do think that's my fault. But she's the last baby, so I'm just going to enjoy the cuddles off her. They're not going to want to cuddle me forever, are they? Yeah? Another question I always get asked is how old all my kids are. So obviously we've got Alba and Inez, who are 16 months and 5 months. And then my older kids are 12, 10, 8 and 6. So I literally had a child every 2 years. And then when my youngest boy was born, we waited 4 years for Alba, which we didn't actually think was going to happen because I've got stage 4 endometriosis as well. So that's just a different story in itself. And Alba is actually the only one that was planned. But I always say everything happens for a reason, and they were all supposed to be here and they're all happy and healthy, and yeah, can't complain. So it's just worked out really perfectly actually, and she was definitely meant to be here. Another question I always get asked is my routine. Obviously I need a routine. Everyone needs a routine, I think, especially children. But my routine I keep quite strict. I think I need to, just to keep the house in order. Now my house can go from clean to messy in 0.5 seconds, especially with 8 people running around the house and 2 dogs. So that little whirlwind over there can create a ton of mess. And if you've got boys, like my boys, you'd know they just take things off, drop them, leave cereal bowls on the table. Yeah, so they create a lot of mess. So I need to keep an orderly house. And my main order is bedtime at 7 for everyone. Now, obviously my older children, I don't expect them to go to sleep at that time, but I expect them to get in their pajamas, go to their room, they can watch TV, they can do homework, they can play, they can do whatever they like, but that is settling down time. And that's what time these babies go to bed as well. So they go to bed at 7 and they sleep 12 hours, which I put down to going to bed at 7. I'm not an expert at all, but all my kids have slept through from 5 months old. These 2 slept through from 3 months old. And I honestly think part of it's probably luck, not gonna lie. But I do think going to bed at 7 o'clock from, I think I'm 7 or 8 weeks old, I used to take them to bed at 7 o'clock, like start a settling down routine. Even if I knew they were gonna wake up for a bottle at 8 o'clock, I'd still take them to bed at 7. And after a couple of weeks of doing that, I found that they kind of click on, so they know. Like Inez now at 5 months old, it gets to 10 to 7 and she's crying because she wants to go to bed. Alba, she waits at the door, same bed. She wants to go to bed, and they go to sleep so easily, and they sleep through the night in their cots. Inez probably gets in my bed between 3 and 5 most mornings, but I can't complain at that. She loves to sleep. The older kids have all been on the same routine. So when I first had my daughter, Ava, who's 12, I put her on that routine when she was about 12 weeks old, and it just worked. It really just worked for us. So again, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just know my own experience with my kids, and that is what worked for us. Other routines are, they get up at 7 obviously for school. I lay the uniform out the night before, just so if you've got boys, you know they are very visual. And if it's in front of them, they can just do it. If it's not in front of them, they're not going to do it at all. my oldest daughter, she's very self-sufficient. She's very independent. She loves to be independent, so she just cracks on by herself. She even sets her own alarm in the mornings. She's really good like that. She never used to be, but now she started high school, she's really good at getting herself up in the morning and getting herself sorted. Thank you. Are we going to build Lego? Other routines I keep are... well, it just feels like second nature to me now because it's what I've always done. Dinner time, we all sit around the table together and there was no phones, iPads, Nintendos, nothing allowed at the table. When you're sitting around a table with 8 people and you've got 3 iPhones going off, a Nintendo game, an iPad playing with YouTube on, you can't even hear yourself think, let alone enjoy your meal. And I want to talk to them. I want to find out about their day. I want to know stuff. I want to talk to them. So that is something that I find important in our house. And they all have a laugh and they talk, and I think it's really nice to do that. So I do like sitting around the table with them. Oh, I had a lady message me the other day, actually. She was a first-time mum. And she asked me how many times a day I wash the baby's hair. Now, I'm no expert, don't claim to be at all. But from what I can remember, I'm sure you're not supposed to wash your baby's hair that much anyway. I wash the baby's hair 3 to 4 times a week. She has a bath about 3 to 4 times a week because they don't need to have a bath every day either. Alba's got really bad eczema, so that flares her skin up quite bad. And washing the hair that much will take the oils out of the skin and the hair, so I don't wash the hair that much. So 3 to 4 times a week is what I do. The baby's routines, always kept her routine very on track. So she will have a bottle at 7 a.m, 10 a.m, 1 p.m, 4 p.m, 7 p.m. That helped her sleep better at night. So that keeps me on track a lot as well because I know where I'm up to. And I used to, with Ava, I used to write it all down so I knew where I was up to and like how much she'd taken and the time, because I was really worried she wouldn't put on weight. She was born at 36 weeks and she struggled with weight gain. But now I've kept the same routine with all of them. It's just second nature. So I really recommend a routine. I think it's key, especially with kids, and they thrive off it because then they know what they're supposed to be doing and where they're supposed to be at. Oh, you're gonna say hi? You can say hi. Did you want to see your sister? Who's this? Who's this? See. See the headlocking thing. Are you a good girl? Oh, is that your sister? Not too much. Not too many squeezes. You want to give her a kiss? Oh, big squeezes. Let go now.
No.
Can I not cuddle? Oh. So that's what I was like with Inez. So another question I keep getting asked is weaning. Now, I'm due to wean Inez in 2 weeks. I always try and wait till 6 months because one, it's easier. Bottle feeding is so much easier than weaning, especially when you're going out and doing school runs. People are quite interested on Instagram about my weaning journeys because I've been quite open on there about the fact that 3 of my kids have had allergies. Hey! Now, one of my sons had a milk allergy, which he's thankfully grown out of, and both these girls have got the same milk allergy. So they've both got CMPA, which is cow's milk protein allergy, and through weaning we also found out that Alba is allergic to oats too. So it flares his skin up really badly with her eczema, and it was about 6 weeks I was feeding it to her every morning. She was having porridge and I could not get control of her eczema, and I couldn't think about what it was. It didn't even occur to me that it'd be oats. She was on steroids from the doctors and cream, and I had to apply these creams 6 times a day, and they weren't even touching her eczema. And then I started keeping a food diary, and I realised the only consistent thing that she'd been having every single morning was a porridge. So for a week I stopped it. And the improvement was literally over a couple of days. It had almost, not completely, but almost cleared. So I thought I'd try it one more time and that afternoon she was in a full-on flare with her eczema. It was really bad, so it was kind of clear that it was oats. But yeah, so I stopped the oats and still keep a bit of a food diary to keep track, but that seems to be the only allergies that she's got, is the milk and the oats so far. Inez is just milk, but obviously we haven't started weaning yet, so we will find out her allergies, if there's any more, soon. I always dread weaning when they're allergy babies because you don't know if they're going to like have an anaphylactic reaction, which makes me so nervous. So even when she was born, it was a couple of weeks after she was born, we realised that she had this allergy. I was so scared to even eat nuts in front of her in case she had anaphylaxis to nuts or whatever, which thankfully none of my children have got that we know of. So when I wean, I recommend, even if they're not an allergy baby, I've always done it the same. So I feed the same one food for 4 days, so like carrots on their own for like 4 days, and then I'll do another food, say broccoli, for 4 days, and I'll do each food for 4 days to make sure there's no reaction. And then if there's no reaction after 4 days, then that's a safe food, so I can take it off. And then after a couple of weeks of building up your different safe foods, you can then start mixing and matching, so broccoli and carrots, apples and bananas, whatever. But I wouldn't recommend doing that from the get-go, only because I found when I did that with my son and he had allergies, I couldn't pinpoint which was causing the allergy because it was a mixture. So that was really difficult. So that's not something I do. I like to keep it all separate and simple from the start. There's so many safe foods out there. If you go down the allergy aisles in the supermarkets, everything's like 3 times the price. If you look around the supermarkets, you will notice a lot of things are dairy-free naturally. So the bread I buy isn't from the dairy-free aisle, it's dairy-free naturally, just off the normal bread aisle, and it's 75p. You can't complain, it's from Aldi. Things like Ritz crackers, she likes crackers with the dairy-free cheese on there. They're naturally dairy-free. What else is there that I usually buy? Like, I have go-to things. Obviously, she eats a lot of fruit because obviously there's no dairy in fruit. Ham, she loves ham. Pom Bears. Now, when my older kids have crisps, I know she's quite young for crisps, but when she sees my older kids eating something, she really wants to eat them. And I felt so guilty that they'd eat a bag of crisps, and they felt guilty as well, so they didn't want to eat crisps around her. But if we go out for a picnic or whatever, obviously there's crisps there. So I found Pom Bears are dairy-free, and the Aldi version of Pom Bears are also dairy-free. Things like bourbon biscuits. Now, biscuits are really hard when it comes to dairy, and if you go down the allergy aisle, they're like £3 a pack for a small pack of biscuits. In Aldi, where I do my weekly shop, bourbon biscuits in there are dairy-free, and so are their own version of Oreos, and so are their own version of Jaffa cakes, funny enough. And you wouldn't think that because they've got chocolate in them, but they are actually dairy-free.
What are you doing?
Evening meals, when I make foods, I just make dairy-free so she can eat the same. And Inez will eat the same as we do. When I had my first daughter, I was so scared of baby-led weaning. She was on purees till she was about 10 months old. Honestly, it was embarrassing because I was so scared of her choking. No. But then with the boys, and I've done it with Albert as well, I started them off on really soft foods, like not pureed, but like soft foods. And then we just kind of done baby-led weaning from there. And she eats so well. And she eats most things as well. Like, she really loves meat. Loves chicken, don't you? So that is something that I love to do as baby-led weaning. Yep. But at the start with Inez, I'll probably start off with like sweet potato or normal potato or mushed carrots, things like that. But we are excited to wean. I would recommend, actually, I was sent by Baby Boo a feeding chart. I'll see if I can link it when I finish this video. And the feeding chart, you can tick the foods off there, so I'm going to stick that on my fridge. I've never had one before, and it'll be really handy to use. It's going to be so strange weaning my last baby. I don't want any more children, but it's kind of bittersweet, isn't it? I will say though, when I'm weaning, I always start with either breakfast or lunch. I'll never start weaning with dinner. That's probably my own anxieties, but especially with having allergy kids, I couldn't feed them dinner and then like 2 hours later or an hour later put them to bed, because I'd be so worried that they're going to have an allergic reaction and I'm not going to be aware of it because they're going to be asleep. So I'll always start with breakfast or lunch. Then you can observe them through the day and see if there's a reaction, because one of my children had an allergic reaction. It was Ava actually. She had an allergic reaction to a yogurt, but she never had a reaction to anything else. It was so strange. And her tongue started to swell. And obviously her only being 5 months old at the time. Yeah? Yeah. Obviously her only being 5 months old at the time, she couldn't tell me. And I noticed that she was just kind of sticking her tongue out. Like, and I could tell, like, her tongue must have felt weird because she was going like that. And she's never done that before as a baby. So I panicked, and I lived with my dad at the time. And I showed my dad, and he was like, just take her to the hospital. Took her to hospital, and they confirmed that she was having a reaction of some sort to the yogurt, and kept doing observations for 6 hours. And then after 6 hours, they said that she's fine to go home and observe her from home. But any reaction, they said, would have probably happened within them 6 hours. So that is the reason why I only do breakfast or lunch when I'm first starting to wean. Another thing people seem to be so interested in is if all my kids have got the same dad, which is a question I get asked an awful lot, believe it or not. I think it's because when you see them all together, they've all got similar features and looking faces, but they've got different coloured hair like between them all. So my eldest has got very dark brown hair. Then my second has got like a dark blonde. Third is red. Fourth is dark brown. Fifth is dark blonde. Sixth is red. So I've kind of got a pattern of dark blonde, red, dark blonde, red. And people are really curious to find out whether they all have the same dad. So they do. We've been together for 17 years. And yeah, they've all got the same dad. When we first had Ava, I was only 19. When I got pregnant, I was 20 when she was born. I had her just after my 20th. And we lived with my dad until Ava was 18 months old. And then my dad always wanted me to buy a house and not rent. So we managed to buy a house when I was 21. This house, actually. And the day I got the keys to the house is the day I found out I was pregnant again with Lenny. So we moved in and I was 6 weeks pregnant. And then we had loads of home renovations to do. A lot of people are always interested in where they all sleep and if I've got room for all of them, which we have. We have considered moving actually, but I don't want to move out of the area. If I was going to move out of this area, I'd probably move to a different country. Yeah, that's what I'd like to do. But yeah, we've done with the bedrooms, all 3 boys share a room, but they share the loft. So we've done a loft conversion and it's absolutely huge. So they've all got like their own beds and they're in the alcoves, the beds. So that leaves loads of room for them to play. Because we built the loft conversion going from the smallest box room of the house, I wanted the kids to have a full staircase because I didn't want them falling down the stairs. The youngest was like 2 when he was going up there. So we have a full staircase and the stairs go like right round the room. And then the rest of the room, the majority of the room is a walk-in wardrobe for them. So they've got loads of room. They've got no storage, they've got no wardrobe space taking up their actual bedroom. So they've just got like the gaming chairs, they've got the beds, the TV, like toys, anything they want up there. And it's very spacious. These 2 girls haven't actually got a room at the moment. And that's a different story. But Ava has her own room. And then these 2 are in with me and Joel at the minute. And we are going to build them an extra bedroom. But we're just waiting to see if we're going to move first. We're just trying to make a decision. So if we don't move, we end up staying here, then we're going to build an extra bedroom for them. So at the moment, my bedroom is very cramped with a next to me cot and a full-size cot and our Super King bed. So you can't really move in there, but it's cosy to say the least. So this has actually been quite fun. I'm probably going to do this once a month. So I do it like a little mini series where I get all my most asked questions on Instagram and do a little video on it because it doesn't block up my feed then, and everyone that's not interested in my stories and my life and the questions I get asked, they don't have to see it. Now both these girls are due a nap, so we are gonna love you and leave you and have a nap. You're gonna have a sleep. That's not yours. You're gonna have a sleep. Sleepy. Say bye bye.